challenge. So welcome back. Welcome back, Julia. Welcome back, Molly. Wonderful to see you here. I have a question. I have a question for you all. This is something that actually has come before, was sent to me before even we started running the meets today. The question was, when and how do you suggest to work with designers and developers together? So this is kind of this famous gap between designers on the one hand, on the one camp, and developers on the other. How do you collaborate to make sure that you are not, stepping on each other's toes? Any words of wisdom and things that you would highly recommend or highly recommend not to do? Anybody wants to start? Molly?
Sure. Well, we're starting with a hard one. This is
Yeah, well, this
a
is,
famously
I had to bring it up.
tricky and still not fully solved thing. At least I haven't found. I think it comes down to just really good communication and documentation. I'm a huge fan of written documentation, even outside of Figma, and just kind of always being in talks with developers, just working as close as possible with both teams. And then also there are some tools that I find helpful, especially using something like Storybook is obviously huge. And then using a plugin like the Token Studio plugin, you can actually automatically sync to Storybook. So there are some tools out there making this easier, but it's still not going to kind of fully encompass all of the changes made to your designs and that are needed and being made to development. So I think it mostly comes down to just like almost more like soft skills of really clear communication and that just kind of habit and practice of sharing updates and communicating well.
Julia, I guess in your scenario, this is the critical part to avoid kind of wasting time and all. How do you even deal with it?
I think designers should be friends with developers, so we can use any of our platform. Our developers use Zeppelin and Figma, even Sketch. So I agree that it's a thing of communication.
But Julia, they are developers, and we are no, I'm just kidding.
But
I'm just kidding.
they are also humans, so we have to agree on something. So in our company, we are trying to talk to the developers and ask them to use Figma or Zeppelin, and it's fine for us. Just working perfect.
Okay, Christine, anything
So-
from your end?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm doing mainly with the courses in Moon Learning is sort of bringing it from the direction that I show a lot. Like what would happen mainly is like usually front end and CSS with your design, so that we really understand why we're building things. Why are we using component properties? Like why are we building type scales? Like why are we using all of these things? So we have a first understanding, and then a lot of what we talked before, component testing. And then I think it depends a lot what sort of team you're in, because you might be just a really small team. And I had actually some really, really great designers that were saying, we don't do any documentation in anything. And they're like, we just don't say it out loud because we sit on one table and we just work together. Like, you're not allowed to mention it because people go crazy. But then obviously you can't do that if you're working in a large corporation or if you across different countries and things. So it depends a lot on the scale of your work. And what I also really like using, if you need a documentation, is I like using zero height. Because you can sync it with Figma and you can have your code. And so you can really, everybody in code can stay on their side, Figma can stay on their side, and you can sort of have your own pages sort of next to one another. And I think that works really, really well if you have the time and resources to invest in that.
Sure, makes sense. I mean, I can also hear the voices of people who are not maybe attending today, because I happen to be working with some organizations which are desperately stuck in not Figma. Right, and they would love to move to Figma, but of course there are all kind of procurement and everything else, and they feel like they are not allowed to play with the cool kids in town. And I'm wondering, how do you feel like this overall design space? Do we feel like Figma is so far away, so much better than other tools? Like again, talking about Sketch, talking about Adobe XD and so on. Do you feel like this is just, I mean, I wouldn't put it this way, but this is potentially counterproductive to disallow teams to use Figma and to kind of to be stuck in a legacy because you have a contract running for the next 2 years? Because I mean, the reason why I'm asking this is because there are, of course, a lot of plugins and things that I discovered just over the last couple of months, which I thought, wow, this is possible today. And then I see what you showed today, and I'm like, hold on, what is this? It's still a design tool. It is a design tool. So it seems like extremely advanced. Or how do you see this?
Yes, it's hard. A lot of the students in my course are switching over from another tool like Sketch or Adobe, and which is nice because you can kind of, it's nice to, whenever you do switch, to all switch together and develop a shared understanding of what are our team's best practices. How does our team generally structure our components and think about styles, and like how's our file structure? So I think kind of learning together is huge in terms of switching tools. Of course, you can still have amazing designs and design teams working in these other tools, but I think the collaboration tools of Figma really are just a lot better, and kind of set those teams apart and just help them work so much faster. So I think it is, I don't know, I don't think it's counterproductive necessarily, but I think it really is valuable for teams to kind of find a good time in their maybe next year roadmap. Like, when can we make that switch? And kind of when we have the appetite to take this on and make that work. And it's different for every team, but I think for most teams, they're really happy once they do finally make that switch. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can just say, okay, this new part of the product, or just the marketing side, or just this one thing can be what we start with as like our kind of pilot project in this new tool. And you can kind of take it slow in that way, and just kind of don't bite off, too much more that you can chew.
Right. The reason why I'm asking is that because, again, when I look at all the things that we saw today, I see some teams really struggling, just struggling, trying to even have a little portion of that sometimes. And again, it's not the skills that designers have. It's more about just the lack of, maybe, I don't know, anything from templates to plugins to, just the big ecosystem that's around it. Christine, what do you think?
Yeah, I think sometimes Figma is getting like, when I started with Figma, it was like so small and so nice, and so like you could just like overlook everything, and that was
You could have a
the charm of
conversation
it.
with Figma.
You
It was
know,
so
yeah, you
like,
could sit down and
yeah.
have a coffee with it. But so now it's like this and that, and I find that a lot especially when I'm teaching about components, that a lot of people come and they're like, or with auto layout and components mainly, people come and they're like, component properties, I don't get them. Like, how? And then it's like, and I'm like, but that's like, it's in layers. You first need to understand components, then you understand variants, and then you add properties, because in the end, it's all the same component. Even if you pull it out from your variants, it's a component. So it's fine if you're in a small team, everybody's just starting, you have no time to do all of this training. Just start with components. It's okay. And then you variants, and then at the very end, if you're building a design system and you really know what you're doing, then add properties, because random properties all over the place, it's just not gonna, just leave them out. It's just the cake on the icing. And I also find that a lot of people use Figma to build like sort of their, for example, their personal website. Then they design it perfectly, and then they're like, no, what do I do with it? You don't need Figma for that. You could have a look at Framer. You could have a look at Webflow, and they're a bit like sort of obviously a bit frowned upon, because it's like, oh, it's no code and stuff, but it makes total sense. It doesn't make any sense to have a programmer designing, like coding your personal website with thumbnails and images that 1,000 times has been built. So I'd say there is super cool tools for that, which is also a huge industry if you think of it. And I think they're coming, and Figma knows they're coming, and they're pushing their things. They have the biggest market share. They're the biggest growing one. So I would say always learn Figma. But there's also some interesting stuff around, and I think it also keeps Figma going, that these other apps are popping up.
And after all, who will need, Figma anyway? If we come, AI is going to replace us all and everything anyway. So it's like, who is going to name layers in 2029? I mean, seriously, we're not going to do that. But also, Julia, to you maybe, because again, you are having this journey, kind of moving to Figma, and then you have some teams in Sketch and all. Do you find that? How do you find this process, and also in general, kind of this moving and this transition? is it kind of relatively straightforward? That okay, we're just forgetting, leaving behind Sketch and forget about it, that it even existed, moving to Figma? Or is it kind of back and forth? And how do you even transition? Like, is it happening component by component, or how does it work?
I gotta say that it's very painful for our team because we have this habit to use Sketch and Figma. For some designers, it's just something new. So we started from the trainings, from the discovering all the superpowers of Figma to understand what we can achieve because of Figma, because we can work faster, we can collaborate with developers, and we started from the visual part. So we started from the colors, font, with something that is very simple to add as a UI kit, and then we want to component by component transit from Sketch to Figma, and we will see how it works. Maybe we need a Figma trainer or some coach, I don't know. But it's fun. I think it's also important for designer to stay curious for other tools, to be it's like competition, who works faster and productive as he or she can, so this person will win. So we just have to know everything about Figma and other tools, and use that tools that can help us to achieve our goals.
So maybe also a question to Molly at this point, kind of building up on top of that. I think that I'm just coming from a conversation with a friend who said that they now have to refactor the way of how they structure things in Figma because all the new things. And it's like, I remember having conversations about refactoring in like software development. Like, okay, sure, we have new technology and all, new framework and whatnot, so we have to refactor everything. And now, we have these new ways of how we can do this and structure and organize and all in Figma. So I'm just wondering, this is kind of more like this architectural almost approach. How would you structure, especially big design systems in Figma, and then you would have the versioning and all these things related to that. So the question, I guess, that I'm trying to ask here is, when it comes to organizing things, to make sure that it's the way of how it's built is relatively bulletproof. I mean, whatever that means, right? So in terms of the future, what are some of the things you would definitely suggest to or recommend to avoid in the way of how you organize files, organize components and everything?
Things to avoid. So I would say using so kind of starting from the first, like this file structure kind of part of things, using the dynamic file structure that I recommended, where you kind of break up the different aspects of your design file and also your designs into multiple files, is probably going to be the best way to try and future-proof your system. It's going to keep your system really flexible and to be able to adapt to the different ways your system might end up evolving. So I'd say that's probably going to give you a really big jump start in terms of trying to future-proof the system. And then I think starting even just like really strong on the basics of having styles you're really confident in and using them from the very start. And then having to kind of simple, clean, easy to use, even the most basic components like your buttons and your inputs from the start, and using them really consistently is going to go really far, because those kind of smallest things are what are going to sometimes make the biggest difference down the road in terms of maybe what something you have to refactor or change, because they really are just kind of touching everything. Just they have so much surface level access of all your designs. Maybe every single design is using your styles and a couple of buttons, things like that. So just kind of those small things are going to really handle like maybe 80% of what you're trying to keep consistent in the future.
So, Christina, I do have to ask that question to you because I know how tidy you like things to be.
Not after seeing Molly's system.
Well, but in general, what would you recommend kind of to stay away from in Figma to make sure that your productivity doesn't get worse over time?
So I would what you just said with the new feature, with those new features popping up and things. There's a lot of, and also what I mentioned before with the component properties and things. There's a lot of like sort of a high layer where you really need to know what you're doing. Also with auto layout, it's not rocket science, and if you sit down and you understand it once properly, it's not that difficult. But you would need to do that. So don't try to do all of this at once. Also within your team, I would rather say, then take away the component properties for now. You can always add them later, by the way. Then auto layout, just take it aside, and you can still do it. It's great. You should do it in the long run. But I would say like sort of focus and just like work your way up as a team bit by bit, but don't put all of the features on because you think you have to. You actually don't have to. It can still be programmed if it's not set up in the super, super, duper perfect way with everything added to it.
But Christine, we are designers. Aren't we supposed to? I don't know. No?
We want to. You see these crazy buttons. No, I talked to Molly like beforehand about this. Like you see these buttons and there's like icon left, right, top. You can switch this up on. It's like super, super crazy. But you look at it and you're like, how do I use that? I don't know how to. So it's like, so you get really like when the variants came out and all of this, and people were like sort of posting these things of everything you can do and stuff, and it's great, but you don't have to. You can also just use a component and then work your way slowly up and always know what you're doing and why you're adding it.
Yeah. Well, maybe this would be also a great opportunity for dear attendees. If you have any particular question that you'd like to ask, please bring it in. I have one more question that I definitely want to ask, and that I have been asked off, so I have to bring it up to Julia. But feel free to go ahead and drop in some of them in the chat, and I'm going to bring them up as well. So, Julia, knowing that you care a lot about the productivity and efficiency collaboration within your team, I do have to ask you, where do you see AI? I had to ask, sorry, I know who wants to talk about AI. Where do you see AI helping you, boosting the productivity and kind of helping in some way or other? Do you invest in any kind of AI tools already, maybe? Or building even one, maybe?
As I said before, we are using AI in our search. Our users can find solutions for their tasks faster. And we also had some projects with AI that I can't mention it, but I can say that AI is just a tool. It's not another human or a designer or a developer. So it's like photography at the beginning. When there are era of painters and photography just appears and everyone said that this is dangerous, but I think AI is just the same tool as photography, as cinema and other stuff, and it's just it could be helper. It can help us to make greater things, more beautiful, more exciting, but also it could be used for bad things. So our goal is to prevent these bad things and to use it for the good things, so people can inspire it and create great projects for us with AI.
Thank you so much. Mori, I mean, I see all these videos of all these different Figma plugins coming up, AI for, I don't know how they even call, to be honest, at this point anymore, where sometimes I wonder, so there is this option, you have the prompt, right? In the prompt, you can say, make the corners rounded. Like, I mean, Yeah, I can write it in text, but I might be just, I don't know, faster by doing this right away. So, where do you think, like, at this point, again, when we're looking at the state of things, it's probably very early still, although there are some incredible things out there. But how do you see this evolving? Are we going to be just text prompt Figma designers?
I don't know. It's a great question. Maybe for some of the like simplest components, or maybe like assembling some simple components. But I think the designers are always going to be the one controlling that tool and kind of directing it to do what they're trying to do just a little bit faster. Right now, yeah, it's a little silly to just type in, do this thing that I can probably do faster than the tool can. But I think it's interesting to watch it kind of grow and get faster and be better. And hopefully these tools are just going to kind of remove some of the boring, busy work that we feel like we have to do a lot. Cleaning up our files or doing anything that's like a little bit redundant. Hopefully it'll just remove those tasks from our lives, and kind of like my talk, like making the system just a better experience for the designers. If we can do kind of less of the little tasks, we can focus more on really thinking deeply about the actual designs we're making, and just dedicate more time to our thought process and thinking about the product and making things even more beautiful. So I think it should hopefully just improve our designs and our experience as designers.
Okay. And then finally, Christine, are we up against the rise of Skynet robots?
Well, I think it's what Molly said. Like, so in a term of really looking at what we're doing, design systems and designs, I think it is about getting out of the way repetitive tasks, cleaning up all of that, which I think will be great. I really love them for writing. I think it's the sort of other stuff that comes in. So, for example, I'm dyslexic, and so just having in Notion when I'm planning my things, just having that, it just takes so much time away from like me having to double check it, and you feel insecure about things. So I think there's a lot of stuff. So it could also be checking accessibility and all of these things. So I think that's for me a very big, so that was for me the big helper. And I think there's a lot of people that have like these little difficulties. So I think that's going to be a great one to just do that with AI, things that we're personally not aware that this might be an issue for someone else.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess we'll be wrapping up here. Maybe one final word of wisdom to the future generations. I mean, imagine somebody watching this, I don't know, 5 years from now thinking, what were they doing in Figma? I mean, seriously, you have this little button and it kind of populates the table and it's done. There is this design system button right here. Like, it just generates all this design system out of Molly's work from 5 years ago. It's just easy. Like, why are they even bother? So if you want to send maybe a message to somebody who's going to watch this, maybe tomorrow or maybe a couple of years from now, any message you'd like them to hear? Maybe I'll start with Molly.
Sure. I think a good word of wisdom would be to not lose sight of your main goal. So your main goal is to create great designs, or to help your team create great designs. It's not necessarily to be the best component builder in the world or create the biggest set of buttons that can possibly be made, and they can do everything with 100 different switches and levers on the side. That's really not the goal, to make a cool looking component. The goal is to help your team create a great designs and then a great product at the end. And so the tools might change a little bit or a lot. What you're able to do with them might change, but the goal should always just be to prioritize the designer's experience and what they're able to make.
Mm-hmm. Christine?
Well, I'd be actually really upset if people watched that in 5 years and it was still very relevant. I hope we moved on. That would be really, really bad for the world.
This will be the highlight. It will be like the YouTube's finest. 17 million views over 5 years.
Let's outdate ourselves. That'd be great. So no, I think it's more, I would more say, when you're watching these videos, and I watch a lot of tutorials and look at a lot of things, and you, especially when you come into design, I always felt like a bit overwhelmed, like, oh my God, they know all of this, and how's this all working? So I always think when you're watching things, be aware that we all practiced all of this before we did it. So like at home. So I pulled that data 20 times before it worked.
Oh, did you?
I did. I broke it right before the talk. And so I missed the first 10 minutes of Molly's talk because like, oh my God, like sweaty hands on my mouth, like trying to fix it. So things break. They're supposed to break. You're allowed to break them. Just go and really try to do it. Everybody that seems like they know it all, they also don't know it all. And if they know it all, they've been doing it 50 times and they're probably bored of it. So they're happy if you come and you ask them to share it with you. And so I'd say, yeah, just be curious, talk to the developers, talk to everybody in your team. And I think that is whatever is the state of art with the tool you're using. Just like dig in, and it's like, it's just not going to be perfect. It just looks perfect on the screen when people present it.
Right, right. And Julia, final words from you?
Yes, I agree with Christine that people and especially designers should stay curious and open-minded and flexible, but also for the junior designers and other designers and human beings, it's important to not be afraid to make mistakes, because we are learning on mistakes. So even if you watch it in 5 years, do these mistakes. Use Figma or other tools on AI or other technologies that will be popular in that time. Just do it, make mistakes, and do it again.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to be here and present and share all these wonderful things. I sincerely appreciate it. I think that our dear audience does as well. And so, dear audience, if is anybody still there or still working on that challenge? So should we look at the challenge? Maybe I should bring Jarain here back in to tell us what's going on over there. I don't know, to be honest. But if you are listening to this, dear attendees, please send a warm round of watermelon emoji. Would it be fair? Everybody loves a good watermelon, I think. No? Christine, you don't like
No,
watermelon?
I just don't know where to find it, but I'm sure it's there.
Oh well, this is. There are challenges here. It's not like
that's a
no.
real challenge. Of
That's a real challenge. But thank you so much for Julia, Molly, and Christine for being here with us today and sharing all the wonderful insights. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you soon again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.